Just days before her 22nd birthday, Katelyn Markham disappeared from her apartment in Fairfield, Ohio, sparking a mystery that would haunt her family and friends for more than a decade. Katelyn was a creative, ambitious young woman studying graphic design with dreams of a bright future. Known for her kindness and strong work ethic, she was adored by her friends, fiancé John, and family. But on August 13, 2011, Katelyn disappeared, leaving behind a trail of baffling clues that baffled investigators and captivated the public. The story begins that Saturday night. Katelyn had spent the evening with John, who described it as a quiet evening together. She was supposed to go to work the next day, but when she did not show up, her friends and family became concerned. Attempts to reach her went unanswered. That night, John went to her apartment to check on her, only to find the door unlocked and her car parked outside. Inside, there were disturbing signs that something was amiss. Katelyn's purse, ID, and personal items were left untouched, suggesting that she hadn't intended to go far. Her beloved dog was left alone, something Katelyn would never have done without arranging for someone to care for him. The police were called, and soon search parties were organized to comb nearby parks, rivers, and trails for clues. Friends, family, and even strangers in the community rallied together, plastering Katelyn's photo on every bulletin board and streetlight they could find, hoping someone would recognize her. But despite their efforts, days turned into weeks with no sign of Katelyn or any solid leads. As the investigation deepened, authorities began to notice inconsistencies in John's statements. He cooperated with police and joined the search effort, but as often happens in these cases, those closest to the victim come under scrutiny. Katelyn's friends noted that she'd confided concerns about her relationship with John shortly before her disappearance, though no one could have imagined that it would lead to something as serious as this. As the days passed, rumors circulated that pointed the finger at John. But without concrete evidence, the investigation stalled, and life in Fairfield reluctantly began to move on. Then, in April 2013, nearly 2 years after Katelyn's disappearance, a significant development occurred. Human remains were discovered along a creek bed in Cedar Grove, Indiana, just 30 miles from Fairfield. When authorities confirmed that the remains belonged to Katelyn, her family's worst fears were realized. While the discovery brought a grim resolution to the question of whether Katelyn was alive, it also raised more questions than answers. How had she ended up in a remote area across state lines, and who was responsible? With this new lead, investigators felt a renewed sense of purpose. They re-examined the evidence, re-interviewed witnesses, and considered new angles. In the years following Katelyn's death, her family continued to search for answers, even hiring a private investigator in the hopes that he might uncover something the police had missed. During this investigation, more names surfaced and new theories emerged, including suspicions that others close to John might have been involved. Despite the persistent questions and suspicions, the case remained cold for years. It wasn't until 2023 that a breakthrough finally came. After more than a decade, police arrested John and another man, Jonathan Palmerton, a close friend of John's at the time of Katelyn's disappearance. Details were sketchy, but evidence pointed to John's involvement in what happened to Katelyn that night in 2011. Witnesses came forward, and investigators pieced together a timeline that painted a chilling picture. Over the years, suspicions about John grew due to inconsistencies in his statements and the strained relationship he shared with Katelyn before her disappearance. Friends mentioned that Katelyn had voiced concerns about John, and investigators noted behavioral red flags. Statements from witnesses and a more detailed timeline emerged, ultimately leading investigators to conclude that John was likely responsible for Katelyn's tragic fate. Witnesses' statements about John brought critical details that raised suspicions. Friends disclosed that Katelyn had expressed concerns about John's recent behavior, mentioning his increasing temper, a troubling shift in personality, and potential substance use. Neighbors recalled hearing muffled arguments from her apartment the night she disappeared, including repeated pleas of no, which contrasted with John's claim of a calm evening. 2 witnesses later reported seeing John leaving his mother's house at a suspicious hour that night, further weakening his alibi and placing him at the scene during critical hours. As the case went to trial, the community's attention was refocused on Katelyn's story. Those who remembered her couldn't shake the sense of injustice, feeling that her bright future had been unfairly taken from her. John eventually pleaded guilty to a lesser charge, but many people felt that justice hadn't been fully served and that others might still hold pieces of the truth. Today, Katelyn's family keeps her memory alive and continues to seek closure. The story remains an open wound in Fairfield, a reminder that even in close-knit communities, secrets can lurk beneath the surface, waiting for the truth to be revealed.
Where's your emergency?
Hi, my name is John Carter. I am calling. I know that you're not supposed to report a missing person before 24 hours, but my fiancé is missing. I can't find her anywhere.
Okay, where did you see her last?
I saw her at like 12 o'clock last night. She stays in a house by herself, so I'm really nervous. Her car is still there. I've been trying to get a hold of her, and I decided to go by her house to see if she was okay. And her car was still there. She would be at work right now with her car, which is why I'm really freaking out.
What's her name?
Katelyn Markham.
Where was she at midnight last night when you left?
She was at her house. She was going to bed. She wasn't going out to do anything, so she would have been in her bed. And I mean, I've been with her for 6 years. She's not deceiving, she doesn't.
Okay, and you guys didn't have an argument or anything?
Not at all. The only thing that's not there is her cell phone, which is positive, but she's not answering it. So, and the Sacred Heart Festival is going on right up the street, and there's a lot of questionable people there, and it's just kind of, I'm sorry.